Hi, everybody. Welcome to Cox Connections. Brad Grundmeyer, Director of Public and Government Affairs for Cox, Louisiana. Thank you so much for tuning into our show. In this segment, we'll be talking to our dear friends at the New Orleans Historic Collection. A lot of great collections that they're doing, and of course, one specifically around the 200-year celebration of Louisiana statehood. It's the 18th Star, and the viewing started back in August, and it's actually going through January 29th of 2012. And to talk about some of the of what you would see when you go to see the exhibit, I'm happy to be joined by Dr. Erin Greenwald, who's the Associate Curator and Historian at the New Orleans Historic Collection. Dr. Erin, good to see you.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome. Glad to have you. This is started back in August.
Started in August.
Really and we're hearing a little bit more about this, this whole bicentennial celebration of Louisiana statehood. You guys obviously stepped up really kind of to showcase all the treasures of those 200 years. And why the 18th Star?
Sure.
I think I know, but please tell me.
Well, we were the 18th state admitted to the Union on April 30th, 1812. And one of the things that was really interesting in putting this show together is normally when we host an exhibition, we have one or two curators that work in a specialization, put together the exhibition and work with our preparators and to get the show up. But what we did this time is we wanted to use people from around the collection who are really familiar with objects that might shine, that might allow us to tell specific stories of things from the last 200 years of Louisiana statehood. So it's not about statehood per se,
right.
But it's looking back at the last 200 years and looking within our own vaults to see what kinds of objects might help us tell these kind of episodic stories about Louisiana history.
Because it's got such a rich history, like obviously other states do, but it seems like Louisiana, whether it's the Spanish and the French and the Spanish and the German and the Haitian influence and the Caribbean influence, et cetera, and the British, I should say. I forgot the British, and just all of that. When you look to do an exhibition such as this, what goes into, I guess, selecting items that you're going to exhibit?
Well, again, this show was different than past shows because we used not only curators, but we used people from the publications department, registrars, librarians, people from all over the Historic New Orleans collection were allowed to have input on this exhibition and to really pick items that spoke to them.
Right.
And so what happened is we ended up with a very unique set of about 54 items. They're exhibited chronologically. They move through time as you go through the exhibition, but they touch on themes from Louisiana politics, culture, social history, military history. Nice. It's really a very diverse group of objects.
Well, let's go through them. I know we have a few items that we're going to showcase and give you a little bit of a snapshot, a little bit of history and meaning to some of these pieces. Let's show the first one is actually, you told me it's a voting box.
It's a ballot box,
right.
So prior to 1954, when the state mandated that we use electronic voting machines, there was an odd collection of receptacles being used in the state of Louisiana and across the United States to count ballots. And this is a ballot box from probably in use between 1840 and 1890 in Orleans Parish. And you would see crockery jars, glass jars, obviously not tamper-proof. But this would have been in use through the antebellum period and post-Civil War.
Amazing. This next one.
This is actually one of my favorites. I selected my friend.
Is this your doing?
This is not.
Oh,
this is my friend Jason Weiss. He's a member of our staff at the Historic New Orleans Collection. This is called a Zimmer-Stutson rifle. It's a rifle that was manufactured in the 1850s in the French Quarter, and it was intended for indoor use. So this is a gun that you would use. It's called a parlor rifle.
Okay.
And you would use it for target practice in your dining room.
Okay.
Sitting room, wherever.
I saw it when I first saw this picture. I said, this is just absolutely fantastic.
Yes, this is a beautiful painting by Francois Bernard called The Indian Encampment, and it dates to 1860.
Amazing. Major General Butler had something to say about this one.
Right. Well, so Benjamin Butler has quite the reputation here in New Orleans, and this is a broadside that we've included in the exhibition. And this is the famous Order Number 28, which essentially said that any female in New Orleans with any word, gesture, or movement, should they insult or show contempt for any officer of the United States, shall be regarded and treated as a woman of the town plying her vocation. And what he was essentially saying is people who were in New Orleans and were not treating U.S. officers and soldiers with respect would be treated as prostitutes and arrested as such.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, we've come a long way.
That well.
No, I'm sure that just fell right on its face. This, you know, we were looking at it from a I didn't know that was Booker T. Washington.
This is Booker T. Washington. This is in April of 1915, probably in Shreveport during his last visit, his last tour here in the state of Louisiana. He died in November of that year. And one of the interesting things about this photograph is that it was taken by a man named Arthur Bédu, who was a New Orleans photographer, longtime photographer who continued in the tradition established in the 19th century of people of color being very active in photography here in New Orleans. The daguerreotype process was brought to New Orleans by a free man of color from France named Jules Lyon, and Arthur Bédu is really continuing in that tradition. He served as Booker T. Washington's personal photographer for many years at the Tuskegee Institute.
Great picture. You think this is in Shreveport?
We think that it's in Shreveport or Baton Rouge, yes. We're not entirely sure.
This one's interesting times here.
Yeah, this is, unfortunately, may look familiar to some people from the last decade or so, but this is from the 1927 flood, in which more than 700,000 people throughout the Mississippi Valley lost their homes. This was a tremendous flood that resulted in the Flood Control Act of 1928, and that congressional act is what allowed us to have some of the flood control systems that we have today. So the Morganza, levee systems, all of those.
And in this apropos, in time for the holidays. Right.
So this is a really wonderful story. These are Christmas cards written and sent to the New Orleans Four. 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education desegregated schools, or at least declared segregation in public schools to be unconstitutional.
Right.
It wasn't until 1960 that New Orleans schools were desegregated. And when that happened, there were four African-American girls, who desegregated William France and McDonough 19, and they had to be escorted back and forth to school every day by U.S. Marshals. And within a week, within a day or two or a week, all of the white students had abandoned those schools, with the exception of 10, and those students had to be escorted back and forth as well. These are Christmas cards sent from around the country showing the four little girls their encouragement for the bravery that they were showing.
Wow. Because, you know, on face value, you wouldn't think anything of it, but it does have some significance.
Well, that's why we chose these objects. You know, that's a good point, and I think this next object really speaks to that as well. As this is a seemingly innocuous object. It's a can of drinking water, but what we are intending to do with this object is to show this object as a symbolic value that speaks to the story of Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Rita. In the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, there was water everywhere, right? But not a drop to drink, because our municipal water supplies had been polluted, for lack of a better word. And this is something meant to capture those days following
and
the storm.
was that to purchase?
This was actually donated from Anheuser-Busch. This is drinking water.
Boy, they thought about it back then. We could have made a lot of money if we'd have thought about it.
Right.
That's absolutely. These images were absolutely fantastic, and thank you so much, Erin,
You're
for that.
welcome.
So the nice part about it, it seems it's not just items from New Orleans; it's from throughout the state.
No, it's from throughout the state. We have objects from North Louisiana, from Lafayette, from Cajun country. We tried to be inclusive in our selection of objects, since it is statehood for the entire state of Louisiana.
We've got about 3 minutes left. I wanted to ask you to tell me a little bit about this new 3D video that goes alongside this exhibition. I don't remember hearing about the Historic New Orleans Collection doing something of sorts, but this must be new.
This is brand new. We have a new, it's about a 12-minute movie, and it uses photographs from the probably the 1870s through the 1930s. It's a slideshow of three-dimensional images using the stereography technique. You might be familiar with stereographs in their modern-day incarnation as Viewmasters. Do you remember Viewmasters?
Absolutely.
You kind of put them up to your eyes, and you could watch the Queen's coronation, or lions in Africa or whatever. This technology was actually invented in the 19th century, and we've put together, with the help of the Louisiana State Museum and a couple of other institutions, a slideshow. It's about 12 minutes, as I said, and it's fantastic. It was done by Walter Williams. It's set to music, and I highly recommend the experience. It's really fabulous.
Well, the 18th Star obviously currently going on between now and January 29th.
Correct.
as really quickly, we're talking about the bicentennial and the recognition of such. Any other programs or exhibitions you guys are going to be working on or having coming up?
We will. In January, there will be 2 major events that the Historic New Orleans Collection is sponsoring and hosting. The first is the collaborative concert that we've done every year now. This will be the 6th with the Louisiana Philharmonic Orchestra, and the theme of this year's concert is Becoming American, and it looks at Louisiana's contributions in the 19th century, classical music contributions in the 19th century to the larger music scene in America, and that will be at the St. Louis Cathedral on January 25th.
Well, guys, it's a fantastic place if you've not yet been to the Historic New Orleans Collection, located at, I'll give you the plug,
It's 533
at least,
Royal Street,
right there in the
heart of the French Quarter.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Again, I think we have a screen we can show you all about the 18th Star, treasure from 200 years of Louisiana statehood. Viewing is now between now and January 29th of next year. Again, the location of the museum, 533 Royal Street in the French Quarter. Gallery hours, 9:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday, 10:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Again, admission to the exhibition is free. More information, go to the website, hnoc.org, or call them at 504-523-4662. And Dr. Erin, thank you so much. Dr. Erin Greenwald, thank you so much for coming, giving us a great history lesson, but also showing the great things you guys are doing at the collection.
Thanks for having me.
It's always fantastic and great to have you here.
Nice to be here.
All right, everybody, go check out the 18th Star, Treasures of 200 Years of Louisiana Statehood. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.